On a 1950 Sunday morning, the best alarm clock in an Italian-American neighborhood was not a bell or a radio. It was the smell. Tomatoes hitting hot oil, garlic warming in a pan, a pot starting to burble on the back burner, slow and steady, like it had all day to become something bigger than its ingredients. Because for a lot of working families, Sunday dinner was not about showing off. It was about holding the week together. Rent was due. Paychecks were not huge. Kids were growing fast. And the kitchen had to turn simple pantry food into a meal that felt like comfort and pride. But what many people forget is this. Poor man, Sunday dinner did not mean small. It meant smart. It meant stretching meat without losing flavor. It meant using bread twice. It meant saving a cheese rind because even the rind had a job to do. So tonight, we're going back to that table. 30 forgotten, poor man Italian Sunday dinners from the 1950s. Not as recipes and not as a list on a card. As moments. As plates passed across a crowded table. As the sound of a ladle hitting the side of a pot. In the 1950s, America was changing fast, but not everybody felt rich. Many Italian-American families were still rooted in city neighborhoods and mill towns, living close to work and close to relatives. Sunday was often the one day everyone tried to slow down, especially after church. And the big meal mattered because it said something simple. We are still here. We are still together. We can still feed each other. Food had to be planned. Dry pasta and beans kept in the pantry. Canned goods stacked in a cabinet. In many homes, tomatoes were put up in jars at the end of summer because winter sauce tasted better when you'd worked for it. And leftovers were not an accident. They were part of the plan because Monday lunches and Tuesday suppers were built from what Sunday created. So let's step into that kitchen and start with the dish that often began hours before anyone sat down. Sunday gravy with spaghetti was the center of the day in many homes. A big pot of tomato sauce simmered slowly with garlic, onion, and whatever meat the family could afford. Sometimes it was a few sausages. Sometimes it was pork ribs or neck bones used mostly for flavor. People ate it because pasta was cheap and filling, and sauce turned it into a celebration. It mattered because one pot could feed a crowd and still leave leftovers. The human detail is the wooden spoon, stained red over years, stirring while the house wakes up. And what came next was even more satisfying because it made the same sauce feel like a different meal. Rigatoni with Sunday sauce and sausage coins was a clever way to stretch meat without making it obvious. A few sausages sliced thin could flavor an entire bowl of pasta, especially when the ridges of rigatoni caught the sauce. People ate it because it felt hearty without needing a huge amount of meat. It mattered because working families learned to make meat a highlight, not the whole story. The human detail is the serving bowl in the middle of the table, and the quiet moment when someone finds a sausage slice and feels lucky. After the pasta course, the next bowl often brought beans into the spotlight because beans were the quiet backbone of poor man Italian cooking. Pasta e fagioli was not meant to impress strangers. It was meant to feed family. Beans simmered into broth with garlic and onion, sometimes with a spoon of tomato, then pasta stirred in to make it thick. Some homes added a small piece of pork or a ham bone for depth. People ate it because beans were cheap protein and pasta stretched the pot. It mattered because it could feed everyone on almost nothing. The human detail is how it thickened as it sat and tasted even better when reheated the next day. From pasta e fagioli, another soup showed how Italian kitchens made flavor from scraps most people ignored. Minestrone with a Parmesan rind was built from whatever vegetables were on hand, plus beans and pasta or rice. But the secret was often a saved rind of Parmesan dropped into the pot to melt slowly and perfume the broth. People ate it because soup was flexible and vegetables could be stretched. It mattered because it reduced waste, and waste was money. The human detail is the rind itself, fished out at the end, soft and swollen, proof that even the leftovers of cheese had a purpose. And one of the most surprising soups for outsiders was the one that turned eggs into comfort in minutes. Stracciatella egg drop soup was made by whisking eggs into hot broth, so they formed delicate ribbons. Some homes added a little grated cheese, or a pinch of pepper, or a handful of greens. People ate it because eggs were an affordable protein and broth could be made from bones or cubes. It mattered because it was fast and soothing, especially on cold Sundays. The human detail is the swirling motion in the pot, the egg turning into threads like the soup is being made in real time. Now we move from soups to greens, because Sunday tables needed something bitter and bright to cut through all the starch. Escarole and beans was a classic poor man plate in many Italian-American homes. Escarole, or another green simmered with white beans, garlic, and oil, sometimes with a small piece of pork for flavor. People ate it because beans and greens were cheap, filling, and nourishing. It mattered because it balanced the meal and it stretched the pantry. The human detail is the way bread was used at the end to soak up the garlicky broth because leaving that behind felt like leaving flavor behind. From escarole, another green dish brought a sharper bite that many kids didn't love at first, but learned to respect. Broccoli rabe with garlic and beans was bitter, bold, and deeply satisfying when cooked right. Broccoli rabe sautéed with garlic and oil, sometimes with white beans stirred in, sometimes with a pinch of red pepper. People ate it because greens were affordable and beans made the dish filling. It mattered because vitamin-rich food mattered, even if nobody used that word at the table. The human detail is the smell of garlic hitting hot oil and the way adults ate first, while kids watched and decided whether they were brave enough. Then came a dish that proved a poor man dinner could still feel rich just by combining two cheap staples. Pasta e patate, pasta with potatoes, was comfort food built from pantry basics. Potatoes cooked into a starchy broth, pasta added, and everything turned creamy without needing cream. Some homes added onion, a bit of tomato, or a tiny piece of pork for flavor. People ate it because potatoes made pasta stretch and made the bowl more filling. It mattered because it fed big families cheaply. The human detail is the texture, thick and spoonable, the kind of bowl that makes a room go quiet. And what came next was even more old world, a dish that turned chickpeas into Sunday comfort. Pasta e sisi was pasta with chickpeas, garlic, and oil, sometimes with a bit of tomato. It was simple, but it tasted like someone knew what they were doing. People ate it because chickpeas were affordable protein and stored well, and pasta made it satisfying. It mattered because it turned pantry food into a meal that felt intentional. The human detail is the steam rising with that nutty chickpea smell, the kind that makes you feel like you're eating something older than your own life. From chickpeas, the table often shifted to a plate that looked too simple to be famous, but was loved anyway. Spaghetti aglio e olio was garlic and oil pasta, sometimes with parsley, sometimes with a little red pepper, sometimes finished with a small shake of grated cheese if the budget allowed. People ate it because it was cheap, fast, and still tasted like a treat. It mattered because not every Sunday had meat, and flavor could come from oil and garlic alone. The human detail is the sound of garlic sizzling gently, not burning, just warming, while everyone pretends not to be hungry yet. And when cheese was scarce or expensive, another pasta trick took its place, a poor man stand-in that still felt right. Spaghetti with toasted breadcrumbs was sometimes called poor man parmesan for a reason. Breadcrumbs toasted in oil with garlic, then sprinkled over pasta like a crunchy, savory topping. People ate it because stale bread was never wasted, and breadcrumbs gave texture and flavor without needing a lot of cheese. It mattered because thrift kept the pantry alive. The human detail is the crumbs on the table, brushed aside and eaten later because nothing good was thrown away. From pasta, we move into the old grain that could feed a crowd when meat was scarce. Polenta with tomato sugo was a humble bowl that felt like a warm blanket. Cornmeal cooked into a thick porridge, poured onto a board or plate, topped with tomato sauce. Sometimes a small piece of sausage or a spoon of beans made it heartier. People ate it because cornmeal was cheap and filling, and sauce made it taste like Sunday. It mattered because it fed many mouths on limited money. The human detail is the polenta cooling into a sliceable shape, and the way it was cut with a simple knife, no fuss. And what came next was even more thrifty because it turned yesterday's polenta into today's hot plate. Fried polenta cakes with leftover sauce were slices of cooled polenta browned in a pan, then topped with sauce. Crisp outside, soft inside. People ate it because leftovers could not be wasted, and frying made old food feel new. It mattered because the budget lived in these second chances. The human detail is the golden crust, the part everyone wants because it tastes like effort turned into reward. Now we step into the egg dishes because eggs were one of the best poor man proteins on a Sunday table. Frittata with potatoes and onions was a skillet meal that could feed everyone without much meat. Potatoes softened first, onions browned, eggs poured in, and the whole thing cooked into a thick, sliceable round. People ate it because eggs were affordable and potatoes stretched them. It mattered because a frittata could be served hot, then eaten cold later, which made it perfect for a household that planned ahead. The human detail is the frittata wedge wrapped for Monday lunch, tucked into paper like a secret. And if you wanted something even simpler, some homes turned eggs and peppers into the main event. Peppers and eggs was bell peppers fried until soft, then eggs scrambled into the pan, seasoned with salt and pepper. Sometimes it was served in bread like a sandwich. People ate it because peppers were inexpensive in season, and eggs made it filling. It mattered because it delivered a warm, satisfying meal without a trip to the butcher. The human detail is the smell of peppers sweetening in oil, drifting through the house, and telling everyone the kitchen is working. From eggs, the table shifted into vegetable dishes that felt like real cooking, even when they were built from thrift. Eggplant parmesan was a poor man's Sunday classic in many homes, especially when meat was limited. Eggplant sliced, breaded, fried, layered with tomato sauce and a careful amount of cheese. It took time, but it fed a crowd. People ate it because eggplant was affordable and filling, and the dish felt like a celebration even without meat. It mattered because it offered comfort and pride on a budget. The human detail is the frying smell in the house, the kind that made windows fog and everyone linger near the kitchen. And when the garden or market had peppers, stuffing became a way to make a little filling feel like a full meal. Stuffed peppers with rice and breadcrumbs were filled with rice, bread, herbs, and sometimes a small amount of ground meat, then baked in tomato sauce. Many families made meatless versions when budgets were tight. People ate it because stuffing stretches ingredients and makes a plate look abundant. It mattered because Sunday dinner was partly about the feeling of plenty. The human detail is the pepper standing upright in the pan, holding its shape like it is trying its best. From stuffed peppers, another stuffed dish arrived that felt fancy but was often built from cheap ingredients and patience. Stuffed artichokes were a Sunday effort dish. Artichokes filled with breadcrumbs, garlic, herbs, and oil, sometimes with a little cheese, then steamed or baked until tender. People ate them because they turned bread into something special and stretched expensive ingredients thin. It mattered because the ritual of preparing them made the meal feel important. The human detail is the table scattered with leaves afterward. Everyone scraping the tender parts with their teeth, slowly, like time itself, is part of the feast. Now we move into the meat dishes, where poor man, cooking became an art of stretching and simmering. Chicken cacciatore was often made with a cut-up chicken, not a pile of expensive parts. Chicken simmered with tomatoes, onions, garlic, and peppers when available. The sauce became as important as the meat. People ate it because chicken was cheaper than beef and could feed many when cooked in a sauce. It mattered because simmering made tough days feel softer. The human detail is the pot bubbling low and the way everyone wants extra sauce on bread, even before the chicken is served. And in some homes, chicken showed up even more simply because the skillet was faster than the oven. Chicken and peppers in a skillet was chicken pieces browned, then cooked with peppers and onions until everything softened into one pan of comfort. People ate it because it was satisfying and didn't require a lot of ingredients. It mattered because a single pan could feed a family and keep costs down. The human detail is the pepper strips, bright and soft, tangled around chicken, like the vegetables are stretching the meat right in front of you. Now comes the dish that many people think of as always expensive, but in poor man kitchens it was made from bread and patience. Meatballs stretched with bread were made from ground meat mixed with soaked bread, onion, garlic, and herbs. That bread was not filler in a shameful way. It was the secret to tender meatballs in a bigger batch. People ate them because meat was costly and bread was cheap, and Sunday dinner had to feed everyone. It mattered because the meatball pot could last into Monday. The human detail is the smell of frying meatballs and the temptation to steal one before it ever hits the sauce. And what came next was even more Sunday because it took time and made the whole house smell like something serious. Braciole was thin meat rolled around a filling, often breadcrumbs, garlic, herbs, and sometimes a little cheese. In poor man versions, the cut might be modest, chosen because it could be tenderized and simmered until soft. People ate it because it made a small amount of meat feel special, and the simmering flavored the sauce. It mattered because it turned cheaper cuts into Sunday pride. The human detail is the string or toothpicks holding the roll together, like the cook is literally tying the meal into place. From braciole, we moved to a plate that looked bold and colorful and could feed a crowd if you didn't use too much meat. Sausage and peppers was often made with fewer sausages than you'd think. Sausage is browned, then cooked with peppers and onions until sweet, served with bread or alongside pasta. People ate it because sausage carried strong flavor, so you didn't need much. It mattered because it made the kitchen smell like celebration on a budget. The human detail is the bread used to soak up the pan juices and the way nobody wants to waste that sweet pepper oil. Now, beans returned again because poor man Sundays did not forget the pantry. Lentils with a little sausage was a dish where sausage was used like punctuation, not paragraphs. Lentils simmered with onion and garlic, with a few sausage slices for flavor. People ate it because lentils were cheap, filling, and cooked into a hearty pot. It mattered because it fed working bodies without a big meat purchase. The human detail is the pot left on low, ready for anyone who comes through the kitchen, because some families ate in shifts, even on Sundays. And then there were the fish dishes, often tied to old habits and church traditions. Bacala with potatoes and tomatoes used salt cod that could be stored, soaked, then cooked with potatoes and tomato. It was a meal built for a pantry, not a market. People ate it because preserved fish was affordable and lasted, and potatoes stretched it. It mattered because tradition often survived through the cheapest ingredients. The human detail is the soaking water being changed, the quiet patience of preparing something that refuses to be rushed. When money was tight, another fish meal could appear straight from a can, but still feel intentional. Sardines on toast with lemon and parsley was salty, sharp, and surprisingly satisfying. Sardines mashed or laid on toast, brightened with lemon when available, and a little parsley for freshness. People ate it because canned fish was cheap protein and didn't spoil. It mattered because the pantry needed reliable meals for weeks when money was thin. The human detail is the tin opened carefully, the smell strong for a moment, then softened by lemon like a quick trick. And what came next was lighter, almost modern, but still built on thrift. Tuna and white bean salad was a cold dish that felt filling without cooking much. Tuna mixed with white beans, onion, and vinegar and oil, sometimes with parsley. People ate it because it was inexpensive protein and beans made it bigger. It mattered because it was the kind of meal you could serve when the kitchen was tired, yet still keep the table full. The human detail is the vinegar smell rising when it's stirred, clean and sharp, cutting through heavy Sunday foods. Now we step away from the pots for a moment, because every Sunday table had something that wasn't cooked long, but mattered anyway. Italian Sunday salad with vinegar and oil was often simple: lettuce, onion, maybe olives, maybe a tomato, if the season allowed. The dressing was oil, vinegar, salt, and pepper. People ate it because it added freshness and cut through rich foods. It mattered because vegetables balanced the meal when everything else was starch and sauce. The human detail is the dressing poured at the last second, tossed quickly, served before it wilts, because even salad was treated with care. And when the salad was gone, bread took center stage again, not as an appetizer, but as a tool. Crusty bread with pan sauce was the quiet finish to many plates. Bread used to wipe the bowl, to scoop the last sauce, to catch the final bits of garlic and oil. In many families, that last swipe had a name, and it was done almost automatically. People did it because bread stretched the meal and nothing flavorful was wasted. It mattered because every drop represented time and money. The human detail is the clean plate afterward, wiped so, well, it almost looks washed. Now we move into the sweet end of Sunday, when the house slowed down and the kitchen finally exhaled. Stovetop coffee with anise cookies was a small ritual that felt bigger than dessert. Coffee brewed strong, sometimes in a stovetop pot, served with simple cookies flavored with anise or lemon. People ate it because a small sweet and a strong coffee marked the end of the meal. It mattered because rituals hold families together, even when money is tight. The human detail is the cookie dunked quickly, then eaten fast before it falls apart, because everyone learns that timing. And finally, we return to that mistake dessert that poor kitchens turned into a tradition. Rice pudding or bread pudding, depending on the house, was the sweet made from what was left. Rice simmered with milk and sugar when possible, or stale bread soaked and baked until soft and comforting. Sometimes raisins went in, sometimes just cinnamon. People ate it because it stretched cheap ingredients into dessert and made nothing go to waste. It mattered because Sunday dinner wasn't only food. It was the feeling that the week could still end gently. The human detail is the last spoonful, scraped slowly, because nobody wants Sunday to be over. By the time you step back from these 30 poor man Italian Sunday dinners, you can see what they really were. They were not just meals. They were a weekly system, a way to stretch the pantry, stretch the paycheck, and still make the family feel rich in the one way that mattered. A sauce that simmered all morning meant patience and planning. A breadcrumb topping meant thrift that didn't feel sad. A saved cheese rind meant nothing valuable was thrown away. A pot big enough for leftovers meant Monday would be easier. Even a simple salad meant balance, because poor man dinners were never only about filling the stomach. They were about keeping people steady. And that is why these meals still linger in memory. Not because they were fancy, but because they were faithful. They showed up every week, even when money didn't. So when you think of a 1950s Italian Sunday, don't picture a restaurant. Picture a kitchen with a pot on low heat. Picture hands moving without rushing. Picture a table where everyone eats and nobody leaves hungry, because the food was built to stretch and the love was built to last.